What is going on, everybody? AHS Rules back again with another video as we're here for another Ring of Honor TV review, episode number 86 to be exact. We have a lot to go through during the course of this video. I've tried to film this video a lot of times. Hopefully this is the last time I gotta try because we're gonna get through it all during this session. So let's get right into it. Episode number 86. Before we get into it, actually, we gotta go through some major news in ROH. The first of which, a new champion in ROH, a new television champion to be exact. Brian Cage defeated Atlantis Jr. on the 0 hour pre-show of WrestleDream. Brian Cage has had a dominant time in Ring of Honor over the past 2 years. I think, to be exact, he is undefeated in singles competition, so it's nice to see him rewarded with a championship. So we'll see exactly where this title reign goes. We will learn who his number one contender is later on during the course of this episode, as we need to go through what happened in the World Heavyweight title match between Mark Briscoe and Chris Jericho. Mark Briscoe won, but we are getting a rematch of this match with a added stipulation this week on Dynamite, as Mark Briscoe will be defending his Ring of Honor World Championship once again against Chris Jericho, but this time around in a ladder war. If you don't know what a ladder war is, it is Ring of Honor's version of a ladder match, and they are typically very violent. I don't know if this one will be the same due to it being on national television and it being in it's going to feel weird because it's an AEW. Regardless, we'll see what happens. I could go on a whole rant or spiel talking about this. Moral of the story, I don't really want to see Chris Jericho as a Ring of Honor World Champion again. I've said that several times in my past couple of videos, and I was hoping at WrestleDream I wouldn't have to say it again. But guess what? We're getting a freaking rematch of it. But he's already held the championship once. His title reign had some good moments, had some bad moments. I just don't think it needs to be duplicated. I don't think we need to go through this whole process again. I'm not a big fan of this rivalry, and it's pretty obvious why. And for them to keep extending it, I'm going to hope it's for good reason, but I doubt it. So this time next week, this whole long rant that I'm putting off, I might have to freaking do it next week. But more of the story, I don't want to see Jericho as ROH World Champion. I'd rather see Mark Briscoe continue to be World Champion. And I hope with us getting a ladder war match, that it is a good ladder war match. We'll be going through a ladder war match later on for the retro match of the week. So we'll get to that when we get to that. So let's get to the 86th episode of Ring of Honor Television on Honor Club. Before the episode did start, though, they did have a tribute graphic for Joe Koff, who was the previous COO for ROH, so rest in peace to Joe Koff. Now, the first bit of action on this week's episode was Serpentico and Angelico versus Ron Johnson and Derek Dillinger. Angelico and Jones start the match off with a long wrist-lock exchange. Once Serpentico tags in, he takes Dillinger off the apron, which puts him in perfect position to grab Serpentico's feet and causes a distraction. Serpentico is in trouble for a while until he moves out of the way of a Dillinger moonsault attempt and then tags Angelico in. Serpentico applies a Cobra stretch while Angelico applies a leg lock, and both members of the SAP finish the match off with submission maneuvers and picking up the victory. As now we go to the backstage area where we're joined by Rachel Ellering, who is being interviewed, and this interview is once again interrupted by Harley Cameron, who realizes that she's made a mistake when talking to Rachel Ellering in the past and kind of wants to start off on a new foot with her. This didn't really lead to anything special or dramatic happening afterwards. Next matchup, Yuka Sakazaki versus Viva Van. This was a very good matchup. Yuka does a roll-up spinning maneuver several times. Van attempts to do a springboard, but it does not end up working out. Yuka hits a top rope drop kick for a 2 count, followed by a brainbuster for another 2 count. Van hits a beauty shot, Tyler Breeze style, for a close 2 count. And then Yuka hits the magical merry-go-round for a 2 count. It had to follow it up with the magical girl splash to pick up the victory. Next matchup, Nick Wayne versus Brian Cook. Wayne attacks after the Code of Honor. Wayne then targets the right arm of Cook for the duration of the match. Cook's main offense during this matchup was several roll-up attempts that did not pay off, as Nick Wayne won the matchup after the Wayne's World Cutter. Now we get some tag team action, that being MXM Collection versus the Midnight Heat. We had a interesting Code of Honor take place here, as the MXM put their tips out to be touched, and the Midnight Heat obliged to it, and then MXM took the opportunity to pose afterward, and the Midnight Heat did not like that. So the matchup was started off by Mansoor and Ricky Gibson, and Mansoor used some very fast-paced offense throughout the match, while Mason Madden used a very power-paced offense throughout the match, and they won the matchup after hitting the center fold. Next, we have Jack Cartwheel versus AR Fox, as AR Fox is preparing to face Ricochet this weekend on Collision. Neither can get an edge early until Fox hits a drop kick followed by a dive to the outside, but Cartwheel quickly recovers to hit his own dive to the outside. Cartwheel turns a cartwheel into a moonsault, while Fox hits a spinning suplex and another suplex, this one off the top rope, followed by a 450 splash to pick up the victory. Another matchup for Collision this weekend, Atlantis Jr. versus Kyle Fletcher. But before we get to that, we have Atlantis Jr. versus John Cruz on this episode. I mainly mentioned this Fletcher-Atlantis Jr. match because Atlantis Jr. beat Kyle Fletcher to win the Ring of Honor Television Championship. And after the match, after that episode aired, because the title change was not on an episode of ROH, it was at a CMLL event, Fletcher was like, yeah, we're going to get a rematch on my soil. So that is happening, but it just won't be for the television championship. So this match, though, Atlantis Jr. versus John Cruz. Atlantis hits a nice enziguri early. Cruz continues to beat his opponent up throughout the match while counting in Spanish. Atlantis Jr. lands a rolling cutter and a frog splash to pick up the victory. Next matchup, Willie Mack versus Commander with a TV title shot on the line. I've seen several posts on X/Twitter saying that this match is supposed to take place at Battle of the Belts this weekend, but they did not say that during this episode, and I've not seen an official graphic via ROH or AEW, so I cannot confirm or deny that. But a TV title shot is on the line in this Willie Mack Commander match. Mack builds an early advantage off some thunderous chops. Commander doesn't build momentum until he hits a dive to the outside. Mack misses a top rope splash. Commander follows this up with his own top rope splash, that being the ring rope shooting star press to win the matchup. So Commander has a TV title shot in his future. A championship he has challenged for several times. As now we get to our retro match of the week. I mentioned that is a Ladder War. It is Ladder War number 7 to be exact, from Final Battle 2018 for the Tag Team Championships. SCU, Scorpio Sky and Frankie Kazarian, versus the Young Bucks versus the Briscoes. So, before we go through this Ladder War, I want to go through the other Ladder Wars. And I'm glad that they said this was Ladder War 7, because it makes the counting of these easier. So, Ladder War 1, Kevin Steen and El Generico versus the Briscoe brothers. Ladder War 2, Kevin Steen and El Generico versus the American Wolves. Mainly noted because Eddie Edwards broke his arm the night prior, and he had a big cast on during this matchup. Ladder War 3, the Briscoes versus the All Night Express. The interesting thing about this Ladder War is that it wasn't even for the tag team titles. It was for number one contenders for the tag team titles. Ladder War 4, probably the most infamous and well-known Ladder War, as it was Kevin Steen versus El Generico. El Generico's last match in ROH. Ladder War V. Jay Briscoe versus Adam Cole, unification of the Ring of Honor and Jay Briscoe's Real World Championship. Ladder War VI. The Addiction versus the Young Bucks versus the Motor City Machine Guns. Now, Ladder War 1 and Ladder War 6 are my personal favorites. Depending on what day of the week it is, I might change my answer on it, but those are the two. If you want to see a Ladder War, go see Steen and Jericho versus the Briscoes and Machine Guns, Bucks, Addiction. Those are the top two. Ladder War 7, we're about to go over. And then the last Ladder War, which would be Ladder War 8, the Guerrillas of Destiny versus the Briscoe Brothers. Now, I went through this whole tangent because there's another ladder match in Ring of Honor history, that being SCU versus Flip Gordon and the Young Bucks. And for some reason, that was not labeled a ladder war. I don't think it matters in the grand scheme of things, but I just wanted to acknowledge that I noticed this outlier. But that doesn't matter. Let's get to this throwback match of the week. The Briscoes got to the outside to throw chairs into the ring. SCU and the Bucks joined them out there, where the first table is involved when Jay stomps Matt through it. We go back in the ring, where Mark has a ladder in Terry Funk position, getting ready for the airplane spin, but he is stopped when the Young Bucks super kick him. And then we get Jay Briscoe being buckle bombed into a ladder. Also, to mention, we did use the red ink once again. This leaves the Bucks and SCUs to battle for who can climb to the top of the ladder, but the Briscoes pop back up to interfere to inflict more damage. Scorpio Sky and Nick exchange dives to the outside, and then Matt looks to follow them, but Jace puts him through a table. Mark gets put through a table via an assisted cutter by SCU. Matt jumps onto a ladder, sending it into Scorpio Sky's face, very reminiscent of Joey Mercury at Armageddon 2006. Mark tosses a ladder onto SCU on the outside. Mark interrupts a Meltzer driver attempt by hitting a cutter, and then this sets Jay Briscoe up to hit AJ Driller. Kazarian hits a Styles Clash onto a chair, and then Kazarian pushes Mark off of a ladder onto another, and then Jay pushes Kaz off of a ladder, or back this up. Jay pushes, I think it was Nick. I wrote down Matt, but it was a crazy bump that the cameras missed. But Jay pushes one of the Young Bucks off of a ladder onto the outside through tables. There's like 2 to 3 tables out there. Only one of them broke. And like I said, the cameras didn't get a good view of it. Kaz is then left alone by himself in the ring until Jay Briscoe pops up and pushes him off, leaving the Briscoes to win the matchup, winning their 10th Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championship. So hopefully Mark Briscoe wins this next ladder war that is coming up on Dynamite. So now we get to our main event matchup of the week. A Proven Ground match, Athena versus Lady Frost. This was set up last week when Athena was cutting a backstage promo and Lady Frost interrupted. And Athena said, hey, haven't I beaten you before? And Lady Frost said she could not do it again. So was she able to do it? Let's find out. Athena and Lexi Nair come out chained together via that big chain that we saw in that backstage segment from last week. But when the match starts, both exchange drop kicks with neither being able to land. Lexi is then chained to the outside and stops Lady Frost from running. Then Athena inflicts more damage while out there. Frost lands a spinning tornado off of the top rope for a 2 count. Frost lands a cartwheel cannonball and a cartwheel driver for a 2 count. Athena hits a power bomb off of the top rope and then follows it up with a crossface. Lady Frost, for a split second, thinks she could break out of it, but Athena reapplies it and Frost passes out, leaving Athena the victor. And then she chains herself back up with Lexi Nair and then tries to go attack Lady Frost once again. And Abaddon's music hits and she drops the title and tries to run away with Lexi Nair. Then she realizes, oh, I've dropped the title. Oh, where's Abaddon? Is Abaddon coming out? And so the episode ends with Lexi Nair and Athena running off into the stage. So overall, I did enjoy this episode of ROH. It was a 2-hour episode. this is going to sound extremely weird, but I was extremely tired. So I'm going to blame any like negative feedback that I had for this episode on me. But like I didn't really have any problems with any of the matches on this episode. They chose a good throwback match, even though I gave you 2 other ladder wars that I would recommend. Like I said, I don't want to have to go on a rant about Chris Jericho being Ring of Honor World Champion again. It sucks that WrestleDream, I thought this would be done with, and it's not. It sucks that we got a ladder war coming up, and I'm not really looking forward to it because of the potential outcome of the match. I'm just very, 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 very much hoping that Mark Briscoe retains, and it is a good matchup. So we'll see what happens next week, and if y'all get that rant as loud trucks are going on, I've got to sneeze, and I'll go to sleep later on. So we've got a lot to going on. I don't ever know how to close these videos out, so I'm just going to end it. So I do appreciate y'all for watching this all. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one, because I'm out for now.